Hi, welcome to En Casa con la Plaza. My name is Abelardo de la Peña Jr. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. Before we get started, welcome, of course, to our presentations, conversations, demonstrations, and performances. We've been at it since April of 2020. If you're on Zoom, please use the chat feature. Let us know where you're viewing from. Ask questions, make comments. It's a different kind of a session today. Those of you who have joined us on Facebook, thanks for joining us as well. Use the comment feature. Let us know where you're viewing from. Ask questions, make comments. You could ask questions, but I'm the only one who's going to answer. This is a special one in which we'll be broadcasting a pre-recorded session with Yolanda Nava and with Alma Martinez joining her. But before we get started, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Union Pacific Foundation, the Institute for Museum and Library Services. La Plaza has been open since last year. Around July, we started inviting our visitors to come on in. Now we are open Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday during the week from 12 to 5, on weekends from 10 to 5 p.m. All of our exhibitions are open except for one, which is opening up this coming Friday. That is LA Memo, Chicano Art from 1972 to 1989. It's organized by Altamed and La Plaza de Cultura y Artes and investigates how Chicano artists adapted new modes of image making, self-expression, and broke barriers to create a pivotal genre of art, which we call Chicano art. So that's, we open on Friday at 6 o'clock. You're welcome to join us in a reception, which will feature a little bit of music, a little bit of food, a little bit of drink, and a lot of interesting people and some incredible art that you'll be able to enjoy. Yeah, you should RSVP at rsvp@lapca.org, but if you just show up, come on in. You're welcome to join us. La Plaza Cocina is also now open. Our museum and teaching kitchen dedicated to Mexican cuisine is open Mondays through Fridays, 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. The inaugural exhibition is called Maíz, Past, Present, and Future, a tribute to the cuisine's most essential ingredient. I think we're going to be closed on Friday because we're getting ready for the reception on Friday for LA Memo, but give us a call before you come on in. All right, as I said, this is a little bit of a different program in that it has been pre-recorded. Yolanda Nava, she was, I'll read a little bit about her. She's an Emmy Award-winning journalist and author who begins with this first session, a series of interviews with Latino luminaries in conversation with artist, scholar, and activist Alma Martinez. Alma's acting career spans almost 40 years of work in film, TV, and theater. She's appeared on Broadway, off-Broadway, in regional theaters across the country, and on Mexican and European stages. Her research and publication focus on Chicanx and Latin American popular political theater. She's also a member of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Science and Television Arts and Sciences, and she sits on the board of La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. And Yolanda also, she was a founding member of the La Plaza de Cultura y Artes Board of Trustees. So, we're going to get started here. All I got to do is just click the share screen. I will start the video. And if you'd like, you could make comments. You could ask questions. I am here to answer them, or I could pass them on later on to Yolanda and Alma. And this is, of course, in celebration of Women's History Month. All right. So here we go.
Welcome. I'm Yolanda Nava, and I'm delighted to be presenting a new podcast, Do You See What I See? And today we have an exciting and wonderful and exemplary and just extraordinary artist, scholar, and activist, Alma Martinez. Alma has worked in stage, television, film, stages around the world, I might add, television, and commercials. She has a star on Hollywood Boulevard. She has an MA, she has a PhD, and she's an extraordinary person. And I'm just so happy to have you here today, Alma. Welcome.
Well, Yolanda, you and I go back a very, very long way. And I've been following your career as well. So I'm just really delighted, first of all, to see you, and honored as always to be able to work with you. So pleasure to be here.
Well, we have a lot to talk about, and there's so many places to start with you. And I think I'm going to start with your decision to become an actor. When did that happen?
Well, it started probably in high school. In high school, I really, really got exposed to more than I ever had before, meaning elementary, middle school. And they had a theater department, and I was trying everything at that time. I tried choir. I did a lot of things, but I always gravitated toward acting. And I was encouraged by a teacher. One teacher, really kept an eye out on me and encouraged me. And that made all the difference in the world. A teacher who really cares.
And so what led you to the Teatro Campesino? Because I have a feeling that was a very important decision that you made to join the Teatro Campesino with Luis Valdez.
Absolutely. That happened. I graduated in 71 from high school, Rancho High School, and I joined the Campesino in 1977. Let me just think about this. Yes, 77. What it was is I was born in Mexico. My parents immigrated when I was months old, and we were raised that we were proud Mexicans. This thing of Chicanos, Mexican Americans, my parents wouldn't even hear it. It was not even in the equation. To this day, when I say I'm a Chicana, my mother kind of cringes because they just understand the political implications of it. They were too busy raising a family, and both of them worked. So what happened was I didn't know where I belonged. I got a full scholarship out of high school to USC, majoring in theater, and I literally crashed and burned because there weren't any first generation counselors, advisors who could really guide me through this, not just the difference in academia, but also the socialization of being in a primarily white university, which I'd never been around. So I was a top student in high school. I expected to do the same in college, and it didn't happen. But there's no one to explain to me that transition. It took time to transition. So without any guidance, I left and I went to Mexico, and I thought maybe I'm Mexican because I wasn't meant to. I thought I failed, wasn't meant to go to USC. So I went to Mexico and got exposed to phenomenal type of training that no one was doing in the US, but then I wasn't Mexican. So I came back to the US, and then I auditioned for Teatro Campesino, and I found my tribe, and I found out that I was Chicana. So that made all the difference in not just my career, my life, and of course they both merged. So my identity as a Chicana is what really, really saw me through my entire life, especially acting.
Well, identity is critical, and we'll get around to that, talking more about that a little bit later. But it's funny that you mentioned the aversion to the term Chicano among Mexican immigrants. My parents were both immigrants. I was born here, and at first my father said, "Why are you using that term? It's a disparaging term in Mexico." And I explained it to him, and I brought over Juan Gomez Quinones and a couple of the other guys at UCLA and graduate school, and that were professors. And they discussed it with him. Dad was an intellectual, and he got it. He started wearing a brown beret, a black beret, a rose beret, and he really got into it. So it was interesting. My mother, of course, never quite understood it, but my father certainly did. So these are important shifts and difficult shifts for us. And the first play, Zoot Suit, that Luis Valdez wrote and produced, that was performed at the Mark Taper Forum and then on Broadway, and then a film was made of it, must have been a real breakthrough for your career.
Absolutely. Luis had written a lot of plays before. He started in 1965. First of all, he joined the union, the strike, the UFW strike, as a block captain. But he had his degree in theater, so he had the idea, why don't we do a farm workers theater? And that's where it started. His career as a playwright involved in the political movements of his day. So when he left UFW 2 years later, after 65, he started writing plays for his theater company, the Farm Workers Theater, Teatro Campesino. But he was commissioned. He was commissioned by Gordon Davidson, may he rest in peace, then the artistic director of the Mark Taper Forum, to write a play about Los Angeles. And he decided to write about Zoot Suit. We had already had in our culture, especially Montoya, Jose Montoya with his paintings and his poem, and Louis, and again, a lot of graphics, but no one had written a play. So Luis took that on, and that was Zoot Suit. And that was the first Chicano play ever to be at the Music Center, at the Mark Taper Forum, at the whole complex. And up until that time, it was the highest grossing play of any ethnicity ever to be at the Taper. And then the Colored Museum, a phenomenal Black play, George Wolfe, that came later, and it opened the door again for more people of color. So it was like this floodgate in the 70s, and a lot of us got our first break there, including Eddie Olmos. They were already working, but this really, really launched our career. It was my first union job, because I had just come from Mexico, Teatro Campesino. So I was like in this world. I had no idea. Professional theater, unions. I thought that all theater was as magnificent as Zoot Suit. I had no idea, because we ran for like a year, right? Sold out. I had no idea that this was like almost once in a lifetime opportunity. But yes, Zoot Suit was a phenomenal experience. Obviously, Ever James Olmos, Lupin Tiveros, but she rest in peace, Tony Plana. A lot of wonderful people were in that production.
And then you're also in the film.
In the film, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I did Lupa in the film. And that still is, I mean, they teach it everywhere, meaning it's iconic. Advertised as far as its uniqueness, and maybe it wasn't its time, but what the longevity of it now, that everybody sees it in schools and it's still there, I still teach it, tells you it's an iconic movie. And we shot it on the stage because we didn't have the budget for, redoing the 1940s in downtown LA. So we shot it on the stage of the Aquarius Theater, where we had the 10-month run.
It's amazing to go back.
My apologies. It seems to be stuck on Facebook. We're going to restart it. Here goes.
To look at this history and how instrumental really the farm workers union, the strike, and all of that activity was in mobilizing communities, not only rural but urban. And I'm an urban child. I grew up in Los Angeles, and for us, the Chicano moratorium was really a breakthrough time, and also dovetailing with the expansion of the women's movement and the Chicano movement. So a lot was going on there back in the late 60s and early 70s. They were very exciting times. God, I love those times. It was just, everything was possible. Everything was possible.
Absolutely.
And that was such an incredible experience to live into that. I wish we could regenerate that kind of feeling. The possibilities are all there, but it seems like a lot of people don't connect with that vision of possibility in our lives. But going through in your career, you had a very interesting career, because it seems when you look back at it, all the things you've done, your bio is actually awesome. And to think what the strategy was, because you started the Teatro Campesino. Of course, you've heard of, breakthrough play, Zoot Suit, and the film, but you managed to work in theater, stage, both in the United States and regional theater in the United States and in Mexico and abroad. And then you got a master's degree in theater at USC. And then, 10 years after that, you got a PhD at Stanford over a period of 10 years. What made you take those career steps? What made you go from stage to film to, you seem very strategic in the way you approached it.
Well, the strategy has to do with intellectual curiosity, has to do with curiosity. I was raised very much, my family were not intellectuals, they were workers. So I slowly started to learn more and more and expand my interest and my curiosity. I latched onto acting because being a Latina, basically raised in a white culture, I found it as a way to really just express myself, specifically in this acting training, Grotowski. It's Polish, Eastern European based, the technique. So what happened was, when I joined Teatro Campesino, well, actually, when I was in Mexico studying, they were very involved, the Bohemian theater art students, with the Cuban Revolution. It was 1972, I believe. And they were very much into the Cuban Revolution and Castro and those kind of songs. So I was politicized first in Mexico. And the plays we did were Waiting for Lefty, Clifford Odette. We did Emilio Carballido's plays, which were very socially, with a deep political message to help society. So that's what politicized me. So when I got to Teatro Campesino to audition, that same emotion and fervor I had when I saw the United Farm Workers Union, I was already politicized in the sense of, yes, this is something I can relate to and I can try to help. So my acting took another focus. And then with Zoot Suit, even more. So Teatro Campesino was also not just identity as a Chicana, but everything that encompassed, which was the topical polemic issues of our time. So with that, as I got a career, because of Zoot Suit, I got into the professional career of acting. During that time, I finished my BA at Whittier College. I hadn't finished it. Because again, remember, I was looking for a place where I fit, and I just didn't fit anywhere. I got an MFA at USC in acting, and I went back to finish it. And what happened was I turned 40, and I realized that I'm not in control of this acting world. I did very well younger, but when I turned 40, like a lot of actresses do, even more so actresses of color, the work isn't there anymore. I always worked, but it wasn't the same caliber of television or film. I mean, I was inducted into the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences in 2013, based on a body of work that I did back then. Because what happened was you get older, and I was turned down by Jack Lemmon, by the way, I still have the letter. My point being that I said, you know what? I'm a theater person. This is and I love school. School was always my go-to place. I wanted to learn how to act. I enrolled and got a scholarship. Dropped out, got another scholarship. Did odd jobs while I was going to school so I could do a theater exchange in Mexico. The only thing I knew, Yolanda, was school. That's where I learned how to act. I could perform because I didn't know anybody in the industry, much less the industry, even community theater, no one like me. So what happened was, I'll try to make this short. So when I turned 40, it's like, I want to stay. I was, divorced, didn't have a dime, didn't have any money. And I was at Oregon Shakespeare Festival. I was doing a season there. I was doing Macbeth, a witch, and I was doing Skin of Our Teeth, Thornton Wilder. And I had like 10 months. And I said, I'm going to get a PhD. That's it. I decided. The only place I applied was Stanford, and I got accepted. So my point is, school was always the place for me to rejuvenate, regenerate, to learn, to be intellectually engaged, socially engaged. It was always school, Yolanda.
Well, that's a wonderful way to approach life, because it is the intellectual curiosity, I think, that's also guided me, and I love journalism for that reason. Mm-hmm. And just to read and learn and study and continue to grow, and grow into an author. And you're in my book of It's All in the Frijoles. Yes. I cannot answer the door. Goodbye. And they keep pounding. And the the creation of It's All in the Frijoles was really important to me, much like a real transition, a key point, just like your Zoot Suit, because it interviewed all of you, the luminaries that I interviewed for that book, about the virtues and about our culture, the beautiful qualities in our culture that are empowering and have enabled us uh, to move into justice, and a whole revolutionary movement in Mexico that transformed that society. Everything that went on, the Chicano movement, the activism, the search for political power. There were 5 legislators in the California legislature when I got married to my first husband, my children's father, Mark Torres, and there were so many opportunities for growth. But you're in that book, and you're in the fortitude chapter, and I want to ask you, what virtues did you learn from your parents and from your culture? Because you have obviously a fortitude, a resilience, and a hard work ethic, and a sense of justice, and all of these other qualities of character, which are the virtues.
My parents, first of all, the idea of a 19-year-old, a 20-year-old, and a 22-year-old, my parents, coming to a country that they're totally unfamiliar with, didn't speak the language, to try to give their kids a better chance. There were just 2 daughters. My older sister was 2 years older, and I was months old when we came. So what we saw was my dad got 2 jobs. He had 2 jobs. He worked like a smelting plant at night, Eli Lilly, midnight shift. My mother, she tells me stories. She was pregnant, and my mother wanted a house that was yellow. She wanted a picket fence. She wanted tulips. She wanted a driveway with cedar lined driveway. My mother was raised on the American dream, like a lot of us, television, telenovelas. Yeah. It's like that was her picture. And she got it. They bought a house for like $3,000. They painted it, they fixed it, they put the toilet inside, they added a little bathroom. And again, she got her tulips, the house, and she was pregnant on a ladder. She says the neighbor was like shocked, painting. So it's almost like I didn't see that, but I recognized the resilience, the idea of this is what I need to do. You don't think about fear. You don't think about impossibilities. You don't think about roadblocks. It just needs to be done. Yes, I'm tired. Yes, sometimes I'm fed up. Sometimes I don't want to deal with anything. But when we kick into gear, the Martinez women, when we kick into gear, this needs to be done. Everything falls away and we do it. All fears, all hesitations, because we know this is the right path.
Well, it's called ganas, I think. Ganas, but we have that, the Sepulveda, my mother's family are Sepulveda, and the Sepulveda women are very strong. I never understood this negative stereotype of, the Mexican American people in this country, because, the women in my family were strong. And yet they took that study, I think it was a Chuck study that I learned about in college, and it was a study done on 15 families in Brownsville, Texas, for God's sakes. That's not the world. That's not the world of Mexicanos or Chicanos, Mexican Americans or Latinos, Hispanos. And so it's a very narrow window and view, and very limited. And on that, everything else has been based, which is absurd. So yes, we have these. That's why I did the Frijoles book, because I wanted to capture what has empowered us. What has provided this tremendous resilience and fortitude, the hard work ethic that people have? And you ask somebody that's working, on a construction site, they're going to say, well, I'm digging a ditch, or I'm doing this, or I'm pouring the cement. Don't you see? But the Mexicano is going to say, I'm building a beautiful cathedral, or I'm building a beautiful school. And that sense of seeing the vision is something much larger than the simplicity, perhaps, to other eyes, of that particular function. But it is very important to have these qualities, and they are what drive people of any background to be able to experience and live their dream. In looking back at some of this, what would you offer to people having gone through so many experiences yourself, especially in the world of theater and film, which is a very difficult place for women, period? And what would you share with students and people going into the field?
Well, I'm a professor at the University of Laverne, and I have a lot of kids who want to be actors. And what I tell them is, it's like, you have to really every day know this is what you want to do. It's not something you want to dabble in. Some people say, well, I want a safety net. Some people say, well, I just want to do it on the side. Well, I want to see if I make it. All of those kind of if, you know, it doesn't work if you want to be an artist. And again, being an artist, I became a professor because at 40, again, I didn't have a dime. I just gotten a divorce. And I didn't have a house. I didn't have a car. Barely, you know, I had a checkbook. I did have a car, a used car checkbook, and 40 years old. And I said, what am I going to do to stay in acting? So I became a professor of theater, which keeps me in the theater every day. I act every day in my class. So I tell the young people, it's got to be a burning passion. If there's
That's
anything,
true.
if there's anything else you want to do, oh, I think I want to be a lawyer, though. I think I want to, you know, I think I want to, you know, get into computer science. Do the other thing. Do computer science. Do lawyering. You know, do lawyering. But if there's anything else you want to do other than acting, do it. People who become actors are because they have no other choice.
Well,
They have no other choice.
this is true. It has to be a compelling desire, I think, in any of these really creative fields, because it's not easy. I had forgotten, and you and I both got divorced at the same time.
Oh, we did?
Well, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
40. Yeah, I was 40 also.
See,
But
all
I'm
the
ahead
things.
of you. I'm ahead of you. So
Okay.
I'm thinking at the same age, not at the same time, but at the same age. And these are a lot of the life cycles that women will go through.
Yeah.
And I had 2 children at that time, you know, that were 5 and 10. So yes, that adds, you know, that adds some stress and some change and everything else to, you know, to what life brings.
But also motivation, Yolanda, motivation. My mother always said, you children, having the 5 children is what motivated me every single day. Every single day was my children.
Yeah, it is essential to have motivation, but we have to self-motivate, because it doesn't come, you know, not sometimes you have a wonderful teacher or somebody, you know, sees some talent, or you're given an opportunity. I know my opportunity in television came because I was an activist and I formed it.
You know,
Acting classes, but we also went to visit him and pick him up. And it was at his, I think he had moved from the dormitory to a fraternity house, and we were going to pick him up for lunch at the fraternity house, and he comes running across the lawn of the fraternity house towards the car, and I go, oh, there's my baby.
Oh.
And you said, that's no baby, that's a hug. Well, that hug but too, he was an actor for 10 years, but now he is in politics, the family business, and he's assessor recorder in San Francisco. So there's my baby.
And your daughter, please. We have to give her.
She passed the bar. She went to Hastings Law.
Mm-hmm.
At 40. She finished at 40. And so for her, it was going back and doing what you did to move forward. She decided to go back and go to law school and have a new career.
You talk about the virtues. I think one of the things I want to say is you can't look at age. You cannot look at age. You can't look, because if you look at age, it's like you depend on institutions to tell you when you should do something. Like 4 years out of high school, 2 years grad school. No, never look at that, because those kind of systems and paths were artificially created to serve the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy, not to serve the individual, unique human path that we all have. So that's what Danielle did. And that's what I did. It took me 13 years to finally finish my BA, 10 years for my MFA. And I did my PhD faster than any of those two. So and I did it, finished it at what, 48 or some 45? I was older. So my point is, that would be another advice. Don't look at these systemically created timelines. Throw them out the window.
That's right. And the same thing about age, because I think we have this thing about age. Okay, at 62 or 65, it's all over. Wind down, you know, sit down and retire. And then you're going to get decrepit, and then you're going to die. And so now the new middle age is 65 to 85. Old age starts at 85. And in some studies, they've revived people that were the most frail in nursing homes between 86 and 92. And when they put them on an 8-week exercise program, they literally came back to life. So exercise, eat right, and have your dreams and keep working towards the dreams and maintain that intellectual curiosity, like you as you described. But you've had so many things that you've done, Alba. I mean, you're a professor, and I want to talk about what you're doing in the contemporary times at University of Laverne, and mixing media and theater and everything else. But to go back to 2010, when you were so gracious and invited me to join you when you were presenting Zoot Suit in Spanish with Luis Valdez as director again of his own play, and you also created a symposium. But let's talk about the play first. What inspired you to want to develop that play in Spanish in Mexico?
Well, if you remember, when I dropped out of USC, I was completely lost, and I went into a depression. I had no idea that's what it was, and I've never sunk that low ever before because I understood what it was. Deep depression, because I thought I had failed. I was the excellent, top of my class high school student, Miss, football, this music department. I was all over. I was like one of the bells of the school. And then to go to SC and crash, everything fell apart for me. Everything. I thought I'm not meant to be a college student. So I went to Mexico. What I found out in Mexico, as I told you, I was the American. I was the gringa. I did never fit in. I did well, but I didn't fit in. I was always the foreigner. But soon after, I went back to Mexico City to study at a conservatory, El Centro Universitario de Teatro, Mexico City. Specifically, I dropped out of Whittier College. Again, I didn't finish my BA. Went to Mexico City. It was part of the National University of Mexico. I auditioned. They chose 14 of us out of 200. Tuition was free because I was still a Mexican citizen. Because remember, I had no money. Everything was scholarships. Yeah. So there is when I realized, you know what? I'm not Mexican. But before I went there, I had seen a Teatro Campesino. They were at Whittier College touring. And I went, who are these people? I so connected. I had never seen anything like that. That was my tribe, but was already going to Mexico. So when I was in Mexico studying Grotowski, I kept Teatro Campesino. I didn't know I would be working with them like a year and a half later. But I said, one day, I'm going to put together a Teatro Campesino, which is basically my tribe, my Mexican-American identity with my Mexican identity, which I'm so proud of, and I wear like a badge of honor. One day, I told myself, back then in 1976, I'm going to bring them together. And it happened in 2009.
You've had so many successes in your life, and the Star on Hollywood Boulevard, and awards and acknowledgments and all the rest of it, and just a stellar career. But you've also had your challenges, and those challenges included, filing a lawsuit, for tenure, going through some physical challenges. What empowered you to move through those critical, cataclysmic, traumatic, life-changing events?
You go back to your virtues. As people of color and women, and I have to tell you, even in my own family, Mexican culture I was raised in, it's a very male-dominant culture. And I saw how my dad was threatened by my mother's ambition, her success, and how his pride was bigger than even our family's financial security. His pride. So he held her back a lot. I won't get into the details, but it was really, I saw that. And as I grew older, it's like I saw it as such an injustice. So I tell people I have a really, really, really low levels or high level of sensitivity to intolerance. My radar is always out there. No matter how small or large, I just, in this feeling of people who are intolerant, discrimination, the sense of what should be right or wrong. It's just really tuned in because of the way I was raised, and also as a person of color. Growing up, the things that I see or I experienced, sexually harassed. The very first film I ever did, sexually harassed, and I literally ended up young actress, had just finished Zoot Suit, 20-something. I literally grabbed the producer, shoved him against the wall, and told him where to go. I'm never going to say. But that was my first film experience, shoving the producer against the wall because he was harassing me. Because anyway, my point being that where do I get it? It's the sense of what is right. Remember I told you that when I put something in radar, everything else falls away. It's the sense to know that what you're doing is right. It's just and it's right. So
well, it's important to know that. And you also, I remember from your contribution to Frijoles in the Fortitude chapter, you were describing how your mother just kept doing what she wanted to do and what she needed to do, no matter what. And your parents are still married. You know, they argue, but they still love each other. They're still together. And so, you know, she opened it up for herself. So you learned how to stand up.
Absolutely. At one point, my dad got really angry with. She's pregnant. She was taking the bus, walking 5 blocks with her little suitcase to go to beauty school. But my favorite saying now, and I tell this to young people, there's one. One is, I love the stars too much to be afraid of the night. That's one of my favorite sayings. I love the stars too much to be afraid of the night. And my other is, stay strong in the truth. So how do I do it? I have a sense that this is the right thing to do. This is the truth. So the truth in whatever I do makes me strong. And I've had to have a lot of strength gathering when I entered academia, which is a whole other ballgame.
Yes, I worked in it.
Yeah, a whole other ballgame.
Yeah, I had a year of at the top of the State University college system, and I was the only person of color, any of a different culture, and it was quite an experience. It was quite an experience. I only lasted a year. I left right away because it was not a place that I could thrive and grow, and really accomplish what I was there to accomplish. But I did a lot while I was there, and I made some very good friends. So that's interesting. How one segment of your life takes you to another one. But I want to go to our travels, my travels with you to Mexico for the presentation of Zoot Suit in Spanish. I came down there in 2010, July of 2010, and I stayed with you there in the compound for a month and saw the play 3 times. Extraordinary. It was stellar. It was empowering. It was uplifting. It was so compelling. And it was just riveting to watch those actors on stage performing the play in Spanish. You know,
it was when we started the first day of rehearsal. The person who was the artistic director of the National Theater Company of Mexico, they're the ones who staged it. He was my teacher back in 1974 when I went to Mexico City in the Cud. So I contacted him. He'd already heard of Zoot Suit. He goes, let's do it. I go, well, a director, bring Luis Valdez. They treated us, oh my gosh, amazingly well. Even Luis said, I've never been treated with so much respect and so much care, and was honored, and never in his life. So I remember going to the first rehearsal and we were like, oh my God, is it going to translate? Is it going to read? Because remember, it's predominantly in English. They did do a Spanish translation, but it's still a Chicano play. And we were like, is it going to work? And it worked. It was like a glove. They got the Pachuco Calor slang because it all comes from Mexico. The rhythms and the movements and all that, Zoot Suit stuff, the as far as the stylizations, it's all Mexican slang, lower poor working class. So they got it, and the production was absolutely brilliant. Luis did a phenomenal job.
It was a phenomenal job, and we celebrated his 70th anniversary, which is just one of the most beautiful moments in my life. That was just so exciting to be there because, of course, I remembered him from years before, and the Teatro Campesino. So that was very, very special that time, and it was very healing time. You're in my book Through the Dark with gratitude and love because that was a very important transition coming out of a very bad marriage, not to my children's father, but to somebody else. And but it was a very exciting time. And what was the theme of it? Esos
Chicanos, esos pachucos.
Chicanos, esos ochos.
Yeah. What I did was, those are all pejoratives.
Yes.
So I said, why not lead with the pejorative? You call us gringos, you call us pochos. Chicano is like a pejorative in general Mexican culture. So let's lead with it. And that's what I wanted to look at.
Yeah.
And Luis Valdez searching for that Chicano American identity in his theater. That was the theme of the conference.
Well, it's very exciting. And the symposium that you inspired there was, I found fascinating, because 35 years or so after the presentation of Zoot Suit at the Mark Taper Forum in Los Angeles, the at the time in the 60s and 70s, there was a real break in the connection between Mexicanos and Mexican Americans, Chicanos. There wasn't understanding and appreciation that we're related, we're cousins. And in the symposium, the thing that noted, caught my attention was the fact that they were talking about being cousins. And you're my cousins to the north of the Rio Grande. We're the cousins to the south of the Rio Grande. And that Rio Grande border has been shifting because it's not made in concrete, nor should it be. But it's just interesting how that worked. What do you think were the lessons that we got from that symposium?
Well, exactly what you said, which was that because it was a combination of, they have a large department at the UNAM, National University, that is called Mexico-U.S. Relations. So if you look at the poster, it's the United States and Mexico. Well, they flipped it around. So the top position is Mexico, and then, North America. So they're looking at the relation of Mexico-U.S. relations from a Mexican perspective. So they were one of the people who actually helped organize it. And then I brought in Pomona College, I think came in at that point in UC Santa Barbara. They helped us, organize with some funding. So I just think for me as a theater person, it's like theater was the tool, the instrument, the art form through which we all could communicate. We may not be able to verbally resolve things like, through diplomacy. I mean, it works, it doesn't work, but Zoot Suit will always be there, and Zoot Suit will always ring true to the heart of it, which is we are the same. Pachucos, Chicanos, Latinos, Mexicanos, Norteños, people from the border. It's always there. And it's like this truth. It's a truth. You can go to the film anytime in the play, and it is there to show you the truth of that fact that we are.
It was a very exciting time for me. And of course, I got to really immerse into it because I was there for a period of time and could see the play various times, that, participated and enjoyed the symposium. But moving forward, you're now at in the Film and Media Arts Department at the University of Laverne, and you're now looking at mixing media and show. We were talking about foreign affairs and how our U.S. foreign affairs in Latin America has often been so misguided because we don't understand the history or the politics, or the fact that the Latin America received the same messages of democracy from France as we did here in the United States. And they've been still trying to live them out. And so when you have these democracy movements, you're accused of being communist, and that's not the case. And so we have supported the generals. And so you came up with the sense of teaching theater history at the university level, including the plays Seeing Through the Eyes of, let's look at, do you see what I see? Seeing through the eyes of, through the lens of Latin American playwrights. Mm-hmm. How does that operate in your classes, in your classrooms?
Well, what I, again, remember, I think I'm going to digress a bit. What getting the PhD did for me, it opened me to a whole new community of phenomenally interesting, people and books and ideas. I am so grateful and love that I got the PhD, because it opened a whole other world for me that I wouldn't have gotten as an actress. So consequently, what I realized when I was teaching the theater, it isn't just about performing. How can I use theater to help a better understanding of, again, these international relations, Latinos in the US, America, and Mexico and Latin America. So what I did was, my class, I call it Staging the Latinx Latin American Revolution. So I look through plays, which really are narratives, personal narratives, stories that were written in periods of upheaval, revolution, US economic intervention. So I basically teach it, and I use the plays as narratives. So that class, because I use that to explain, the big question is, why are so many Latin American people coming to the US? Why are there tens of thousands of people at the border? Why are they clamoring to get in? So this is my way as a theater person to tell the stories of all these countries through the plays, why they're having, and films, why they're all coming to the US. And what is our part in that? Because the US, because of economic expansionism, we have a good part in that. So that's what I teach. And it's a way of combining my theater, my politics, and my creativity, because it's a challenge. How do I engage these young people with ideas they've never heard before? Decolonial theory, critical race theory. How do I make it non-academic and make it pertain to their everyday life? And that's a challenge. And I love it. I love the challenge.
Well, and we love you for all the work and the creativity and your various stages of life, the 3 lives you've lived as an actor and as a scholar and as an activist. They all come together, and they're all guided by truth, by virtue, by love of community and country and culture, and wanting to make the world a better place. All that. So we're very grateful for you participating, and suerte, and many, many blessings. Thank you so much for joining us.
Gracias, Yolanda. Gracias.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. That was Alma Martinez being interviewed by Yolanda Nava. Yolanda Nava, journalist, author, former board member of La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. Alma Martinez, actress, producer, a writer, academician. I mean, 2 powerful women speaking back and forth in truth to each other during Women's History Month. This was pre-recorded back in January, and we expect Yolanda to provide us with a couple more interviews. She's interviewing, or she has interviewed Herman Gallegos, very important person in the Latino community. But for now, we appreciate you being with us. We thank our sponsors, Union Pacific Foundation, Institute of Museum and Library Services. You could catch this, if you didn't catch this entire session or you want to watch it again, we'll be posting it on our YouTube page at La Plaza LA, also on our website at lapca.org. As I mentioned at the onset of the program, this weekend on Friday, we have the opening of our exhibition, LA Memo, Chicano art from 1972 to 1989. It's an incredible exhibit. You'll have to come and check it out. The reception is this Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. there at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. It's free of charge. We'd appreciate if you could RSVP at rsvp@lapca.org. But like the Mexicanos, Chicanos that we are, we probably aren't going to RSVP. Well, we are going to show up and going to enjoy some food, some some refreshments, some entertainment, and each other's company. So come on down on Friday. Muchas gracias a todos. Catch the next En Casa con la Plaza, which is tomorrow. A conversation with Richard Iñiguez. You know him from such movies as Boulevard Nights, The Dark Tower, and more. But more importantly, he's an artist advocate. He's an artist himself, but he's an arts advocate and a member of the La Plaza Eastside Arts Initiative. And you'll learn more about that tomorrow at En Casa con la Plaza here on Zoom and Facebook Live tomorrow at 7 p.m. So with that, muy buenas noches. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you real soon. All right, bye-bye.